What is going on, guys? It is Trifecta J here with the Season 4 off-season of my Washington State Dynasty. We're going to go through, recap this season, go through the off-season of Season 4, and then get ready for Season 5. A look at the stats from this year. Luke Falk was the 5th overall passer in the entire nation. He played pretty well. The interceptions were an issue for sure. Jamal Morrow had a big season. Probably should have got more carries on the whole, but he did miss a pretty good number of games, so Avery Burgess got a lot of work in his absence. River Craycraft almost got 1,000 yards receiving in that last game. I was really trying to feed him, and he was just very effective in that game. Did break 10 touchdowns, so that was nice to see. Our receivers didn't drop a ton of passes, but some of them were pretty crucial. Robert Lundy had 4, and he did not play very much, so that's something that I definitely knew about him, as he has the athleticism, spectacular catchability. He's actually a very good route runner, so he's not raw in that way. It's just that he sometimes, I guess, has lack of awareness and will just drop easy passes. But you look at all NCAA first team, you have Jesse Shaw, Daniel Ekuale, Greg Hoy, Darius Lamora, all as first team All-Americans. Second team All-Americans, we have Peyton Pallure, Jeff Farrar, our nickel corner, which is nice to see. He also played as our third safety in some of those looks. All Pac-12 first team, Jesse Shaw, Daniel Ekuale, Peyton Pallure were definitely very well represented. Also had Charleston White to that, Descalo, and Jamal Morrow. No players on the second team, I don't believe. Oh, we do have Victor McGill. But an interesting thing to note, none of those players were on offense other than Jamal Morrow, but his was for being a kick returner, as Greg Hoyt actually wins the Bednarik. He wins Best Linebacker, so 2 awards for him. And Best Returner will go to Jamal Morrow. We did have some other finalists with Jesse Shaw and Daniel Ekuale for the Lombardi and the Thorpe Award. We had 2 finalists with Jeff Farrar and Darius Lamora. A look at some career stats, as Luke Falk ended up 13 yards away from 9,000 career passing yards. Overall, I thought his career was good. He put up solid numbers. Not the most talented guy. He was a former walk-on at Washington State, so not much can be expected from him. But our quarterback for next year, I feel like he could be a very strong player if he does not transfer. I guess the guy in waiting, it would not be good if he were to transfer. River Craycraft, another good player. He had a very strong redshirt sophomore year, a down junior year, and picked it back up for his best year in his senior year. Sebastian LaRue was pretty consistent throughout, got better each year though. Darius Lamora ends up with almost 300 tackles in his career, and a lot of those were solo. That's very impressive. Jeff Farrar, 47 tackles for losses, and he will be back next year unless he decides to declare for the draft. Jesse Shaw has 18 sacks on the season. Very impressive by him. As in the BCS National Championship, BYU, who was number 1, loses to Ohio State by 19 points, so somewhat of a blowout. As also Jamal Morrow sets the rushing touchdown career record for Washington State by 1 touchdown with 34. One thing I wanted to mention about as we head into the offseason is Jamal Morrow ended up with 6,000 all-purpose yards in his career. That is incredibly impressive. He touched the ball 730 times in his career and averaged over 8 yards per carry or per touch, which is just absolutely incredible. But we'll go ahead and move into the offseason. We have 2 10-win seasons in a row and 3 straight bowl wins. But at players leaving, we do have a couple of players who want to leave that aren't seniors, as Greg Hoyt is declaring for the NFL draft, but we're going to try and talk him back into it. He would only be a 6th round pick projected, and I feel like he could definitely get that up to maybe a 2nd or 3rd round pick if he stayed for another year. Then James Moss, a power back. He wants to transfer, I guess, back to home for some more playing time. Some of these things, it was very hard to promise him. I could definitely get him in 9 games, but 25 catches was a little bit of a stretch, so he will be transferring to Clemson. Maybe a team that we might look to play later on in the future as a little bit of a rematch against them. But something that really surprised me, we did not have anyone drafted, as no Jamal Morrow, no River Craycraft, no one on our offensive line, Daniel Ekuale, Peyton Pallure, all these players who were very talented for some reason the NFL, I guess, should not want. But now to recruiting, right now we have the 8th overall recruiting class. We have 1 5-star and a good bit of 4-star prospects, so that's good to see. And a player I don't think any of you have seen yet is Marcus Stanford, a junior college transfer running back. I feel like he could fit into the Jamal Morrow role for our team, as he has elite speed and also elite elusiveness, and it's good now that we got him because of James Moss leaving. But a couple of other players that we're looking at in terms of recruits, Our very important players, Terry Davis, an athlete who I feel like could be a very strong running back for us. And then you also have Benjamin Wood, a blocking tight end. He really needs to come to us because he would play a lot in probably his redshirt freshman year, as we do have 2 senior tight ends on our roster for next year. And then Chris Fuller, an incredibly talented defensive tackle, number 4 overall defensive tackle. We have a slight little lead on him. This is what the final points ended up looking like. DeAndre Arnold gets 50 points. We had a little bit of a lead for him along with Joe Brooks. But now we go ahead and head into signing day. Which of these recruits can we get, and how good is our class going to end up being? Joe Brooks decides he does not want to go and play college football. DeAndre Arnold, we get killed by Pitt. A couple of other prospects that I did not really try and go to other schools, but we do get Terry Davis, Benjamin Wood, and Chris Fuller. So our 3 main targets in the offseason, we got all of them, plus all of the players we already had, and we have the number 7 overall recruiting class. Each year our recruiting classes have gotten better, and I would definitely say this is our best one yet. A 5-star, 8 4-star, 7 3-stars, so a very big class and a very talented class. You can see all the players who we got to commit to us. A couple of those are walk-ons though. So now we look at some of the other important teams, as Oregon ends up with a 19th overall recruiting class. USC has the 10th. So we had the best in our conference in terms of recruiting classes, although USC's was very solid. Now to position changes, Terry Davis, like I said before, he's a power running back. He has excellent trucking. I think it was around 93. And then Patrick Cole we would send to free safety. Keith Harrington, I think he's a little too small to play running back for us in our inside zone scheme. So we put him at wide receiver. He was initially recruited as a little bit of a hybrid between those 2 positions and has some very nice receiving ability. Joey Clark, a free safety JUCO transfer, will be changed to a strong safety. And also Dave Robinson was moved to fullback, as he will play as our H-back in a lot of sets, but also be our backup tight end and twin tight end sets. Like I said, Patrick Cole goes to free safety. And then Eric Sykes, he has a lot of speed. I'm not really sure what I should do with him. He's also 6'5", but still very raw, so I moved him to free safety. Maybe that's a position he can play. And then Nick Burley, a former defensive end who entered as an athlete, I ended up moving him actually to middle linebacker after a little more juggling with the roster. And look at Tony Gaines, though, our redshirt freshman quarterback. He decided to stick around. He did not transfer. He was not mad about the redshirt, and he got a good bit better in the offseason. Running back, definitely a question coming into this next season, as Avery Burgess did play last year, had around 500 yards rushing, but he still has not been the featured back throughout an entire season. A wide receiver, other than Richie Wiley, a lot of it is up in the air. We haven't seen much of Zaire Andre, Calvin Green, a little bit of Robert Lundy, and he has flashed, but still his hands aren't that great. Although during the season, it was a weird thing. Every game, his hand catching rating, it got better. So by the end of the year, he had gone up by a good bit of overall, and they're now at around an 80 something. So that's much more doable, and that should be very helpful along with his spectacular catch in traffic and route running. Our offensive line once again looks to be good. A little shuffling there. Did end up moving Martin Woodard to right tackle, Kingston Fernandez and Jesse Shaw at left end, with Wade Welsh backing them up. Then at right end, we have Hercules Mataafa and Sidney Phillips, another redshirt freshman who I was worried would transfer. He decided to stick around from Washington, and he'll definitely be a pass rushing specialist for us, and we'll get on the field, and I'll try and get him on in definite passing situations and see what he can do. Defensive tackle looks to be very strong with Mo Tapa, Jimmy Benson, and Alex Gibson. Linebacker, we have another battle this year, Frankie Loveu and Brian Wiley. I didn't think Wiley played all that great last year, so Loveu will get a chance along with Wiley in different sets. Chandler Leniu finally gets his chance to play at 90 overall. Greg Hoyt, of course, returns. Very glad we got him to stay. And then Alex Dixon, he appears to be a very solid outside linebacker. Along with Luke Harris, he's not the most athletic guy, but he is a guy who can lay the wood. He has a very high hit power rating. At cornerback, another question mark. We graduated, I think, 3 or 4 corners. So Marcellus Pippins, who hasn't played a whole ton, will come in and play, along with Marcel Stewart and a couple of redshirt freshmen. Sulaiman Hameed will be our free safety. He got a +5, and he looks to have a very strong senior. Also, Eric Sykes now up to a 90 speed. George Evans will compete with Joey Clark for a starting position, but we do run a lot of 3 safety looks, so Evans and Joey Clark will get on the field at the same time, so that shouldn't be too much of an issue. But now moving ahead into cutting players, we had to cut 5. I cut a receiver. I guess the footage got cut from this. Not really sure where it went, but Jacob Miller, a walk-on tackle, gets cut. Brent Kelly, a JUCO transfer walk-on, gets cut at cornerback. He has some nice speed, but not very good coverage ratings. Jason Collins, this is where it gets tough. Our defense has become much more deep, and his 71 overall earlier in this franchise would have been a very talented guy. And then Justin Haley also would get cut, a former recruit, but he just did not have very good coverage ratings. As now going through our redshirters, Benjamin Wood, Frank Bentley, Nathan Tuttons all get redshirted. No more on the offensive line. Martin Woodard in his senior year. As on the defensive line, no new defensive ends. Chris Fuller actually gets redshirted. I really hope that does not come back to bite us. Eric Wilson, and then a couple of corners. Now we look at our schedule. We open up with Utah State, then at home against number 6 UCLA, then Tulsa. Then we travel to number 3 USC. We have a home game against Stanford, and then we have a neutral site game in the middle of the season against number 10 BYU, the runner-up in last year's national championship. So that should be a very interesting game. A look at the preseason polls. Ohio State is your number 1 overall team. BYU actually drops all the way down to 10 after finishing in 2nd last year. Penn State at 14, and we're at 15 to open the year, so that's good to see. And we're actually predicted to win for the 2nd straight year the Pac-12 North. We did not win it last year. Hopefully we can win it this year. But to end off this video, I was wondering, what do you think of our new quarterback? He is going to be starting. I haven't said it yet, but he will be starting over the senior Peyton Bender. What do you think about number 3 for him as an option? Or there's also number 1. I'll let you get and see that. But that's about it for this video. I hope you did enjoy. Hope you are excited for Season 5. This should be a very exciting season, especially with our new quarterback and Tony Gaines, the number 4 overall player in a previous recruiting class. Like I said, I hope you did enjoy. If you did, please leave a like down below. Leave your comments on this upcoming season and what our recruiting class ended up being, because I'm out.